If you're here at this point, you're probably at a point where you're either losing top candidate to a competitor, maybe you're being ghosted halfway through the hiring process, or worse, you probably waited 30 days to see a few more options and only to realize that that number one option you really wanted, eventually they ended up signing elsewhere, or they just ended up signing with your competition. And if any of that does sound familiar, you're not alone. This happens every single week in sales recruiting. And today, on today's live, I'm going to be breaking down why speed wins in recruiting, especially when you are recruiting top sales talent. So with that being said, for those that don't know me, my name is Jayce Grayye, CEO and founder of Jayce Grayye Consulting and Recruiting. And in the last 4.5 years, we placed over 1,000 sales representatives in over 200 organizations. Now, what's most importantly is that I'm going to be talking about how we go through this process without having to sacrifice quality for quantity. Okay, and let's start with this. Why great salespeople don't stay on the market long. The best closers that are out there, we're talking about that top 1%. They treat their job like a sales pipeline. Okay. If you've ever hired a top producer, you know that they're booking and closing every single day, every single month. They care about that leaderboard being that number one. And I'm telling you right now, we're talking to people and potential candidates who are booking 5 to 10 interviews a week. They're qualifying opportunities quickly, and they close that offer that shows a commitment first. In fact, our data shows that A players are typically off the market in under 14 days. Sometimes it could be as less than a week. So if you're right now taking about, let's say, 3.5 weeks to start and finish those potential interviews with those candidates, I'm telling you, you're going to be out of the running pretty quickly. And it's not about rushing the process. It's about being decisive, because top performers right now, more than ever, are decisive. And they expect the same from the company that they're joining. Here is where I see most companies shoot themselves in the foot. They just wait. They wait to see more candidates. They pause to compare offers, or worse, they lose internal momentum, and then eventually that stalls out for weeks. Meanwhile, the open seat right now is costing them revenue. Their team is stretched thin, and their pipeline is going cold. And I'll give you a real life example from one of our current clients. We, on our end, had one of our current clients who had a closer who resigned. And instead of moving quickly, they spent about 30 to about 40 days going through what we call analysis mode. During that time, every single month that seat stays open, they're losing about $150 to $200,000 every single month. And unfortunately, by the time you put someone in that seat, the deals go stale, the momentum dips, the morale is not where it should be, and clearly their Q2 fell off by at least 20%. Imagine in a world where they would have moved fast. They would have made the decision within about 10 days, and they would have hired someone ramped up by week 3. That gap right there. That's the difference between growth and stagnation. And here's something that most, I would say, founders and sales leaders overlook. The speed of your hiring process is a reflection of your leadership. Let me say that again. The speed of your hiring process is a reflection of your leadership. When you move fast, you're telling candidates, we know what we want. We're serious about hiring. We respect your time. But when you move slow, you're also telling them that we're disorganized, we're unsure, we don't value urgency as much. I want every one of you to ask yourselves, who would you buy from? Would you buy from a sales rep who takes 2 weeks to follow up? I'm sure you wouldn't. And that's my point. Top candidates right now are judging you just as much as you're judging them. And speed at this point shows conviction. Conviction builds trust, and trust closes offers. Now, let me be clear. I'm not talking about going through this process fast and reckless. You still need to have a standard, but here's how I've seen smart companies move quickly and hire right. The first thing they do is they have a predefined scorecard. And in that scorecard, they know exactly what good looks like before they even interview. Okay. Then In step two, they're tightening up that process. What I like to recommend is I like to recommend about 3-step flow process where it's like the initial screening, the deep dive, and then the final decision. If you're able to really condense your time and give yourself about a 7-day window, don't stretch it over, weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Don't do that. But if you're able to give yourself that 7-day window, then at that point you prep everything correctly, you're more than likely going to have access to that number one lottery pick and be able to pull the trigger very fast and get the right person that you want for your organization. That's how you align your team. If you need buy-in from multiple people, then yeah, I would encourage you to schedule it before the interview starts so you know exactly where everybody stands. And that's what I typically tend to see being that needle mover when it comes to this process. And that's the exact playbook that we tell all of our clients when we're working with them. And this helps them reduce the hiring process by over 40%. I'll also share with you a time where we worked with another one of our founders in the tech space. We helped him grow his organization from 3 mil to 8 mil, and they needed a closer to handle the demos to close. And within days, we got them a short list. In 5 days, at that point, check this out. They interviewed candidates on Monday, second rounds by Wednesday, and offer went out by Friday. The results that came out of that, we're talking about candidate accepted by Sunday. The first deal, I believe, closed within weeks, and then it paid himself forward by, I would say, months 2 or so. Meanwhile, you have another founder who speaks to a candidate, interviews them for about 2 to 3 weeks. They message us on then Monday saying, hey, we're ready to make an offer. And unfortunately, that candidate has decided to work with their competitors. See, at that point, not only did they lose a great candidate, but they lost him to their competitors. This is why speed is so critical when you're going through this hiring process. I'm seeing it every single day. We're talking to candidates, we're talking to great talent. Everyone right now is getting about 3 to potential 4 offers on the table as we're going about finding the right fit for the right organization. And it's crazier now more than ever because the amount of time it takes to filter out the right person for the right team, it's time consuming. There's no way around it. It's time consuming. However, if it's done right, you put yourself in a position to scale instead of stagnate the organization. If you're right now going through this hiring process and you're probably wondering how you can, how you're probably wondering why you're missing out on that top talent, ask yourselves this. Are you moving with urgency? Because in sales, the best reps right now, they close fast. The best clients, they close fast. And the best hiring teams, they just move just as fast. Okay. If you want help tightening up that hiring process, finding top closers, SDRs, or sales leaders, or just want something more like a benchmark to your current process, drop me a message, let me know, comment speed on this live, and I'll share with you our 7-day hiring framework that we use to all of our clients so you can hire better, faster, and smarter. With that being said, everybody, I want to thank you so much for tuning in on this live. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.